2 weeks ago, an Australian bank agreed to pay $8 million Australian dollars over a cyber attack, not for being attacked. Its own security test found the weaknesses in 2020. Nobody fixed them. 3 years later, somebody used exactly those weaknesses. And it sits under a regime that names accountable executives, not under privacy law. That is what gets priced now, not the break-in, the controls somebody had already written down. Here are 5 from last week, and the question each should raise at your next risk review. 1. The build machine. Someone took over a developer account and published poisoned versions of 3 widely used building blocks of software. One has been downloaded 245 million times. The poison ran while software was being built, not while it was running. A company could be infected by compiling its own code and then ship that to its customers. At that point, it is not a security problem. It is customer notification and contract exposure. Security tools watch what runs in production. Nothing was watching the machine that builds it. The poisoned packages were pulled down inside 2 hours. 2 hours is fast, it is also long enough. So ask this: is a poisoned software component on our risk register, and can I see the owner and the date the response was last tested? 2. The keys nobody changed. Researchers found more than 9,000 cloud access keys sitting in public and still working. Almost 1 in 5 were the most powerful credential an account has. One of those is enough to read every customer record you hold, which is a conversation with a regulator, and to spend without limit on your account, which is a conversation with finance. The typical key was about 5 years old. Fewer than 1 in 7 had ever been changed. 2 decisions, neither of them technical. Nobody put an expiry date on credentials, and almost nobody set a spending alarm. The alarm is the cheaper of the 2. It is also the one nobody owns. So ask this: if one administrator credential leaked tomorrow, what is our estimated regulatory and financial exposure, and who accepted that risk in writing? 3. Nothing to patch. A flaw in Microsoft's identity service scored 10 out of 10. It was under attack. Microsoft fixed it on their side and told customers there was nothing to do. That is not the reassuring part. That is the story. The service that decides who your staff are runs on systems you cannot inspect, and you heard about it afterwards. If your board asks what happened, you would have to ask your supplier. Not a patch. There was none. What was missing is a supplier assessment that treats your identity provider as something that can fail, and a named person to write the note. Nothing to do is not the same as nothing happened. So ask this: does our supplier risk assessment cover our identity provider being breached? And who owns the notification to the board and the regulator? 4. The prompt replaced the specialist. 5 American agencies issued a joint warning. Attackers used AI to write the code needed to reach industrial controllers, the small computers that open valves and run production lines. The targets were water treatment, power, chemicals, and food, found by searching the public internet. Once connected, attackers could change what a controller does. That is not a data breach. It is a stoppage, a safety event, and a sector regulator. Reaching these systems used to require a specialist. That scarcity was doing the work of a control, and nobody chose it. The devices had been findable for years. What changed is who can afford to look. So ask this: do our internet-facing operational systems appear in our threat model? And what does our impact assessment say? 1 day of stoppage costs. 5. The door they stopped using. A phishing kit sells for $10,000. After it steals a login, it quietly registers a second way into the account. one that the attacker controls. Change the password and it survives. End every session and it survives. Your team declares the incident closed and the attacker is still inside. Every extra week raises what you have to disclose, and you have already told the board it was handled. The playbook: reset the password, end the sessions, close the ticket. That was written for a world where a stolen password was the whole problem. They are selling the thing your response procedure was supposed to stop. So ask this: when we declare an account compromise closed, what evidence proves the attacker is out, and when was that playbook last validated? 5 stories, 5 controls that nobody had priced. Nothing watching the machine that builds our software. No expiry date on our cloud keys. No answer ready when a supplier fixes a serious flaw quietly. Controllers that move real things, sitting on the public internet. And no alarm when a new way in gets added to an account. The regulator in that bank case did not price the break-in. It priced a control that somebody had already written down and nobody had fixed. The 5 questions are on screen. Send them to whoever owns security for you. You do not need to understand the answers to notice which ones never arrive.